Hello everybody. I hope you are well on this Wednesday and welcome to episode 20 of How to Renovate. Wow, I can't believe it's episode 20. It feels like just a couple of weeks ago I was really happy because I was on episode 10 and here we are on episode 20 already. The time really is flying by. So for episode 20, I will be talking to you about planning permission. So in this episode, I'm going to go over 5 things you can do to help secure planning permission. Planning permission, it is the dreaded planning process. So if you're planning a renovation which needs planning permission before you can even begin, and if you're feeling a little bit confused, a little bit worried, because navigating the planning application process can really be quite daunting, especially if you're on your own or you don't have an architect to help you, it can be really daunting. So I wanted to cover a few things you can do just to help make the process a little bit easier, just kind of ease things a little bit, make you feel a bit more confident about it, a few tips on things to do just to kind of help you get closer to the positive outcome. So let's get started. As you probably know by now, everything I teach about renovations falls under my 5-pillar process, and the information in this episode falls under pillar 2, preparation. You can find out more about the 5-pillar process at the end of the episode. There's a free video download, so do go and check that out. Let's get into the episode. So, 5 things you can do to help you secure planning permission. Number 1, do your research. So it is actually quite easy to do some research on your particular property on your local authority website. So you should have a planning section on your local authority website, and this is usually where you can go. You can search by address, you can search your own property, you can search your neighbour's property, and you can see all the previous applications, whether they've been approved or rejected. You can go through them, the drawing should be there, the reasons for approval or rejection should be there as well. So you can go on your own, do loads of research on your street, on your area, and get quite a lot of information about what you might be able to achieve for your own home. So you can get some great information this way and a really good steer on what you can do. If you research your property, if you type in the address and it comes up that loads of planning applications have been done before, many of them have been refused, for example, you can then speak to an architect or even a planning officer, and sometimes even a planning consultant, and they might be able to advise you as to why that was the case. It doesn't necessarily mean that you won't get planning permission for what you would like to do, but it just means that it might need to be more within the realms of what you're allowed to do on that street, and that's perhaps when one of those professionals could help you. So moving on to number 2, which is check if you're in a conservation area. So if you are in a conservation area, it doesn't mean you won't get planning permission for what you want to do. It just means you'll have a few more hoops to jump through. Again, you can research, you can do what we just talked about. And number 1, you can research your property, research what your neighbours have done, see what you might be able to achieve by going and looking at your online local authority website. So have a look at that. It does not mean you won't be able to renovate your home. So just take comfort in that. It just means it has to be the right thing. It has to be considered by the planners. But again, an architect can help you. Looking at what your neighbours have been able to achieve can help you. And you should be fine. You just need to get the right design, the right application for where you are. But by no means can you not extend or renovate because you're in a conservation area. You just need to research exactly where you are and what that means for your particular property or your particular street or area. So moving on to number 3, which is do a pre-application. So not many people know this, but most councils actually offer a pre-application service. So here in the UK, if you are not sure about whether you'll be able to get planning permission for something or not, or like we just talked about, perhaps there have been many rejected applications for your particular property before, you can actually do a pre-application where you meet with the planners, so the local authority planners, you meet with them, whether it be online or in person, you show them your plans and what you would like to do. They then give you feedback on why you would or wouldn't be able to carry out that extension or that change to the property. So it's a good way of not wasting that time to put in an application and then wait those 3 or 4 months for your decision, only to find out that at the end the reason why you're not allowed to do that. So it just kind of gives you the confidence to go in with an application that the council's already seen and given you advice on, and then the chances of that being approved are exponentially higher than just going in cold, essentially, with a design you're not quite sure of. So this is usually where you want to do something a little bit unusual, or like we just talked about, if it might be in a conservation area. It's kind of standard non-conservation areas are usually quite straightforward, but this would be a situation where you're really not sure about whether you'd be able to do what you want to do, and that might be because none of the neighbours have done it before, or there've been previous rejections before. So this is a really good step if you're in a bit of a tricky property, tricky position. This is a good way to find out if you might be able to do what you'd love to do. Number 4 is to communicate with your planning department. So once you've put in your planning application, you'll be allocated a planning officer. And so this is the person that will review your application and decide whether it might be approved or rejected. So you'll be given a name, or you should be given a name of your planning officer. And what I always like to do after being allocated a planning officer is immediately send them a message, just a general message saying, introducing yourself, say, this is my application. If there's anything that you see that you might still need, please do let me know. If you see that any issues, please do let me know. It's just kind of opening those lines of communication and introducing yourselves, putting yourself forward as being receptive to any changes, because the last thing you want to happen is for no communication and just a negative result at the end and you don't quite know why. So if there is room for communication, sometimes the officers are so busy, they've got so many cases and they can't respond, or they can't communicate with each individual. But I would say send an email anyway. Just send some kind of message to say that you're here, you're open to communication, and you're open to any changes that need to be made and any discussions around it. So because the regular communication between yourself, your architect, the planning officer, all of those things are really important to help a positive outcome. So I would say if you are getting an idea through the communication that something's not quite right with your application and it might be rejected, and you can only start to get the feeling of that by the communication with your planning officer, or they might call you if they're really good and they've got time to, and say, look, this is about to be rejected. You then have some choices. You can say, well, I don't want it to be rejected. I would rather withdraw this application and make the changes or any changes you've got to suggest and resubmit the application. So that would be an option for you, rather than waiting for a rejection and then having a rejection on the property and having to start the process all over again. So I really would say, wherever you can, and it's not always possible, but wherever you can, open those lines of communication between yourself and your architect and the planning officer. Okay, moving on to number 5, our last one, which is work with an architect. So lots of renovators always ask me if they need an architect or not. And I always feel that if it's a renovation that needs a planning application, so if it needs any sort of extension or anything that needs planning approval, an architect is actually quite valuable to have on your project, because they will give you advice on the planning. They will hold your hand through the planning application process. They will know all the regulations. They will know all the forms and everything you need to fill out and provide alongside your application. And they will also help communicate with the planning officer, which can be a bit overwhelming if you don't know the lingo and you don't know quite what you need to change, if you need to make changes. So having an architect, if you're inside the planning application process, is quite helpful. It's not to say you can't do it without an architect. I have carried out planning applications before, quite a few on my own, but I'm a renovation consultant, so I know the process and I know what they want and how to do the drawings. And if you feel comfortable that you can provide the information needed and outlined for the application process, you can do this yourself. But I would just say that if you're in any way unsure, get a professional to help you along, because you'll probably more likely get a positive outcome. So that's it for this episode, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to catch you in the next episode. If you enjoyed the episode and you found the information really useful, please go and subscribe, like, comment, rate. Anything will be helpful for others to help find me as well, so that I can help them with their renovations. Anyhow, have a lovely week and I'll see you next time. Bye for now, guys. Bye for now. For more information on my 5-pillar process for successful renovation, you can go directly to southplacestudio.com/pillars, where you'll find an introduction to the process which covers each of the pillars and what they cover. We also have a number of other free renovation resources. Go now to southplacestudio.com/freebies. I have created some amazing freebies for you there. There is one on the process, like we just said. There is one on planning permission. There is one on kitchen design. There is another one on lighting planning. Go and check those out. There's so much free information there to help you with your renovation.